Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Radical Candor podcast / stream. I am here with Ryan from Google, and Ryan and I and his team and the Radical Candor team have been collaborating to build a portrait, what's called a portrait of me. I am the first. So Ryan, tell folks what was on your mind when you launched this project, which it's been so much fun to work with you and your team.
Well, thanks for being an amazing partner and having us on the show here.
And I didn't introduce you either. Sorry about that. Connection before content. So Ryan, tell folks about you.
Sure. So I'm Ryan Germick, been at Google for 500 years and have lived many lives. But the through line is humanizing technology, whether it was with the Google Doodles or the Google Assistant and now in Google Labs, finding ways to take my art school education, my liberal arts education, and apply it in the world of technology. And when thinking of portraits, what the team and I were thinking is, how do you take this awesome power of large language models and voice technology, even some of the cool imagery things you can do with generative AI, and bring voice to people and have an opportunity to surface the expertise of folks like you, Kim, and who better to build the future with and co-create with than someone whose call to fame and expertise is giving great feedback, and you did just that. So thank you.
Well, this is what gets birthed at the intersection of art, Slavic literature, and technology.
That's right. And hopefully giving you more time to write more Slavic literature somewhere in there. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So I think one of the things that I love about it, in fact, rather than explaining, let's show, don't tell. So why don't you ask me a question?
Okay.
Some kind of management dilemma or communication dilemma you have. Ask me a question and I'll answer it. And then we can have the portrait so that people can understand what the portrait is rather than trying to explain it abstractly.
We'll do some stunt demoing.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to have a hard one. How do I give feedback to someone who's underperforming, whom I think has great potential?
Yeah, this is what I call the look yourself in the mirror quadrant of management, because very often when someone is underperforming, but you believe they have great potential, maybe the problem is something they're doing wrong, but also maybe the problem is something you've done wrong. Like maybe you've put them in the wrong job. Maybe you have not made the expectations clear enough, whatever. So I think going into this conversation with a good deal of humility, saying, I believe in your potential, but being so that's like the care personally part, but also being really, really clear about exactly what they're doing wrong and saying, you can succeed in this job and I'm here to help you. It's my job to help you succeed in this job. But part of helping you succeed, you can't do right if you don't know what you're doing wrong. So that's the real Kim Scott answer. Let's see what the portrait says.
All right, I'm gonna pull up the.
By the way, while you're pulling it up, I will say that one of the things I love about the portrait is that real Kim Scott tends to be a little bit long-winded, and the portrait is pretty snappy. So let's see what it says, and maybe you'll have to ask the portrait a couple of follow-up questions since it's so snappy.
Hello, Kim Scott portrait. How do you give feedback to someone who's underperforming but you think has great potential?
That's a classic situation. You want to help them realize that potential, right? The key is to focus on specific behaviors and express your confidence in their ability to improve.
Pretty snappy.
Very snappy. That's good. Like in some ways, I like that answer better. I wonder if for folks who are watching us live, I'd love to hear your comments about whether you like, and I will not be offended if you like the portrait answer better than my answer.
But your portrait. It's you can take credit.
Yeah. And look, I want it to. In some ways, my grandmother used to tell me about growing up in Galveston, Texas, and they would have a race between the horse-drawn fire extinguisher and the fire truck, the new mechanized fire truck. Of course, everyone would cheer on the horse-drawn, but of course the mechanized was able to be faster. And the reason why I'm so excited about this portrait is that I am filled with guilt all the time about the number of emails I miss with people asking questions of me, the number of LinkedIn messages I miss. Like, I want to have all these conversations with all these different people who've read the book. Like, I wrote a bunch of books that never got published. This one did get published and did okay. And so the good news, that's the good news. The bad news is people want to talk, and I'm only one person, and I can't answer all the questions. And now I can. So this portrait is, in addition to being really helpful to other people, is a liberator for me. So I have time now not to answer all these questions, not to feel guilty about all the ones I can't answer, but to go write the next book. And also, I think this portrait will help sell more copies of Radical Candor.
We hope so.
Yeah, I'm certain. I don't just hope so. I'm convinced. I have conviction on that point.
Any more questions for Kim Scott portrait, or can I get the real Kim for a while?
Yeah, you can get the real Kim for me. And if folks have questions, folks in the StreamYard, Jen, or on, whoever's watching, wherever you're watching, Jen said it was amazing. Definitely sounds like you. And it does. It's kind of, I showed it to my daughter last night. She's like, "Oh, Mom, that really sounds like you." So other questions for real Kim Scott? Ryan?
Well, I mean, any hot tips on what your next book is? Now you got me curious. As a Kim Scott fan,
yeah.
I want to know.
So I one of the things that I have, my twins are 16 years old now. And one of the things that I have noticed about them and their friends is that they're not especially optimistic about the future.
Yeah.
And for good reason. I mean, there's a lot of problems in the world right now. But one of the things that I felt growing up in the 70s and 80s, that it was those were kind of, in some ways, optimistic decades. And I feel like the optimism served me well. So I'm writing a book. It starts in 2020, and then it fast forwards to 2070. It's about the high school class of 2020 and their 50th high school reunion. And they will have fixed everything. Justice will have rained down like water. And so that's what I'm trying to imagine, a better future for my kids.
I love that. You mentioned some experiences with your kids using your portrait.
Yeah.
How's that going at the household? Are they leveraging it to get out of trouble or to get more privileges, or what are they using it for?
Yeah. So my son actually spent more than an hour arguing with the portrait about, in California, you turn 16, you can get your driver's license, but you cannot drive with your friends in the car. You cannot drive with other minors in the car, which is a great law, I think, because there's a lot of evidence that shows that a distracted brain, which a 16-year-old is very much a distracted brain, it gets much worse when you have your friends with you. And so great law. I support the law, but it's frustrating for them. They have this sort of partial freedom, and they have a taste of freedom, but not actual. So he spent a full hour arguing with my portrait about why he should be allowed to drive with his friends. And it was hilarious because the portrait sort of thought the conversation was over at about the same time mark that it was like, why don't I summarize our conversation?
Yeah.
The portrait was like, but he really wanted to keep talking. And he talked and talked, and it was really enlightening for me, because I realized as I was watching this that I cut off conversations with him and his sister probably before I should, and so that was cool to see. I had to finally take it away from him. I'm like, you got to go finish your homework. So that was cool watching it.
And I'm in the course of our collaboration, you also mentioned that it was a bit of a running joke from some of your team that a Kim Scott bot would have really
Yes.
been helpful. And we were confronted by the progenitor of that idea recently, who wanted
Yeah.
to credit. Maybe this is the opportunity to get credit.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was working on the AdSense team at Google, the great Dobromir Montauk, who
The history now. This was the
yes,
origin of
yeah, we'll loop Dobromir in here as an April Fool's joke. Because I was very much pushing the team to automate a lot of the customer support work that we were doing. That was the kind of the theme of the year was automation. And as an April Fool's joke, Dobromir said, "Great news! I've automated Kim." And he gave there were kind of 5 responses, almost canned responses that I tended to send to people. You know, they'd send me some great idea, and I'd like, "Great idea, make it happen. You know, don't bother me anymore." Hopefully that was not but that was the joke. Was that was sort of how I tended to respond.
Well, I'm
So
proud. I'm proud all these years later we've added to the canon, like, sorry,
yeah.
I didn't understand what you said, and can you please try it again? Or that is against my terms of service to discuss. So we're launching and iterating the Kim Scott. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I will say one of the things my son tried to do with a portrait is to break it, and he threatened to do some very dangerous things. And I loved the way the portrait convinced him not to do those dangerous things. So.
Yeah.
So anyway, this has been, in many ways, this has been like a lifelong dream of because when you're a writer, in fact, the reason I wrote Radical Candor was that I had become a CEO coach, and then a bunch of people wanted me to coach them. And coaching really doesn't scale. Like I find if I'm working with more than 5 people at a time, I'm neglecting all of them. But again, I was filled with guilt that I couldn't say yes to everyone. And so I wrote the book. Actually, I was like, okay, I'll just write down, and then anyone, can, for $15, or if they can't afford $15, they can go to the library and check it out for free, can read what I think. And in many ways, books do scale. As a writer, you can write the book once, and then thousands of people, millions of people can read the book with no incremental work on the part of the author. But if a book does well, and you're lucky, I mean, I've written a lot of books that never even got published, but this one luckily did get published, and a lot of people read it. And now all of a sudden, people had all these questions for me. And so now I'm back to the scaling problem. Like, I'm only one person. Like, I would love to do 1 million book signings. I would love to have a million conversations, but I physically can't. And so now I'm back to the, racked with guilt kind of problem. And again, this is why I'm so excited about the portrait, is that it scales. Now I can answer, AI can answer everyone's question all the time, and it will give good answers. It's not, I think one of the problems with large language models is that it's a mathematical average.
Right.
And average just gets you to average,
Right.
and the portraits will get you spiky answers from specific people. And as you all launch more portraits, like, maybe we can argue with each other.
I get a lot of value out of this world of LLMs, but sometimes when I'm asking questions, it feels like you're going to a restaurant and asking the waiter, like, what's good on the menu?
Yeah.
And the answer is, it depends what you like. Here are the 15 different things you might enjoy. And it's not helpful.
Yeah.
But we've got all these experts out there who have structured their thoughts in books or podcasts or other things that are truly valuable, right? I mean, we all can get so much value out of these experts that help us in these personal growth ways. And to just go with the mathematical average seems like a missed opportunity, not just for the person and the user at the end who's like getting that advice, or the writer who doesn't get to have that specificity or control, but also the platform itself, I think, would benefit from more of the human voice.
Yeah, exactly. Like, now you can do the equivalent of asking the person who loves cheese fondue if the cheese fondue at this restaurant is good,
Right.
rather than just
But
asking.
you're not supposed to leak our next portrait.
Yeah.
That's still confidential.
The cheese fondue portrait is
that's
next. All right, sorry,
good.
I gave it. I gave it up.
You're first.
Yeah. And the other thing that is really wonderful about portraits is that I got to be involved with creating it. So Laura asked, have you ever seen your portrait give a response that is different than what you would typically give as advice? And one of the reasons why I feel so confident about launching this, I mean, it's an experiment, so it's not going to get everything right. It's okay. But the reason why I feel so confident is that I got to be involved in training it. So I spent a bunch of time asking it a bunch of different questions. And in the first version, it did sometimes give an answer or even a tone. I was sort of rude to it, and it was a little rude to me back in the early instance. And now it won't do that.
We turn the SAS style a bit. But I mean, at Google Labs, we've got 3 values. It's chase a future that we really want to live in. It's build to learn. This, as you mentioned, this is an experiment. But a third value is to co-create. And we don't pretend to have all the answers. We have access to some of the technology, but we're really looking to find ways to bring out the best in people, and partnering with folks like you has helped a ton. And shout out to the team who worked really hard to respond to all your excellent feedback and your team's excellent feedback. There's a lot of grinding that went into quality and one of the reasons we're focusing on a single portrait as a launch vehicle is to really to go deep with craft and care to give answers that are as accurate and as helpful as possible. It's easy to say here's a couple pages, pretend to be this person, but it's sort of like garbage in, garbage out, and we're trying to push the state of the art for quality. So good question for Kim, Laura. That's really the value. I think the currency of this opportunity is, can you really scale? Someone who's got a lot more things to say, but not all the time to say it.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I have found that since Radical Candor came out, there are about 80 frequently asked questions that represent kind of 80 or 90% of the questions and I think a lot of authors struggle with this. Like, you write a book, a lot of people read it, and people are going to have the same kind of question over and over. And it's exciting that people want to, a journalist will send me a question. And on the one hand, I'm thrilled that a journalist is interested in the book. But on the other hand, I'm like, would you just read the damn book? And that's not a very radically candid. That's an obnoxiously aggressive answer.
Yeah, you're in the wrong quadrant.
Yeah. I mean, I'm human, and sometimes I get impatient. And luckily, not only is the portrait available 24/7, it has, unlike me, infinite patience.
Right.
And it doesn't mind answering the same question over and over and over again. And that liberates me to go write the next book. So love that about what you all built with me, and I love that I got to be included in the process.
We're looking for cheese fondue experts. So if there's anyone in the audience, authenticity.
I've already had a bunch of people say, I want to build a portrait. So I've been sending you.
Starting small but thinking big. We'd love this to be a platform that really scales.
Yeah. Somebody asked, sorry, the questions are coming in and I'm losing the names but somebody asked, what's next? I don't know if you'll do this at some point.
Yeah, go ahead.
But one of my dreams for this, you heard it first here, you all heard it first here, is to get several portraits kind of having what I call a Rogerian argument. In other words, not an obnoxiously, like, one of the things the portraits could do is teach people how to disagree productively. And so I would love to have my portrait have a disagreement with somebody else who has a different view of management maybe than I do. And I think that would not only would it help people flesh the ideas out, it would also teach people how to disagree productively.
There's a lot of performative dialogue out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my novel, the thing that the hero of the novel, the heroine of the novel does, Miranda Bailey is her name. Is that no Miranda Morales? I changed her. Miranda Bailey is from Grey's Anatomy.
Crossover.
Yeah, exactly. Miranda Morales, one of the things that she does is she builds sort of a personality extender that will help people online learn how to not bully and be obnoxious with each other, but to discuss things. So maybe the novel is going to come out in this.
I love that.
I think another thing, Ryan, another thing that people have asked about here and also on LinkedIn and other places is when this will be available in other languages and in other countries. So maybe you can talk.
We part of the process is to launch and iterate, and this is our first crack at the experiment, but more international availability is top of our list. Please keep the feedback coming. We're easy to get a hold of. We'd love to respond to all the suggestions and feedback. But more languages, more internationality, more international availability, more features, more portraits. Like we've got a long list of wonderful things in store.
Yeah, super, super cool. Another thing that that I have really loved about doing this with you and your team are the ways that users, like you all do really good user testing, and the way that various users have interacted with the portrait. And one of my favorite stories, but I wonder what one of your favorite stories is, Ryan, was a mother who had to have a conversation with her child's school about a special program they needed to put in place for her child. And she was understandably dreading this conversation because you're a hostage to fortune when you have children. And she said she spent some time talking through the situation with the portrait to help her prepare for the conversation. And she said by the time she was done, she actually was looking forward to the conversation instead of dreading it. And that meant a lot to read that to me.
Well, I mean, maybe I shouldn't admit this, but as a communication coach, you're very valuable for communication. I want to brag about my team's work, and so when I'm thinking about what do I post on social media, this is that you gave a profound, beautiful example. But I was like, hey Kim, like how should I talk about this thing? And I workshopped my LinkedIn post or whatever.
Wow,
it was very helpful.
Good.
But I mean, as a product builder in technology, you get sort of like really close to your work and you think everybody should be in love with it. Then I went on vacation, somewhere in this process, like a month ago.
Yeah.
And I was in Hawaii chilling with my family and didn't have to open a computer or a laptop or anything. Just
very nice.
Chasing a couple young kids on the beach. And I asked myself at a moment, well, I don't have a review this week. I don't have to work on some design this week, but would I still use this thing? Is it still useful? And I had it on my phone, and lo and behold, there were moments where I was like, even domestic disputes or whatever, how should I approach this? And having that supportive, companion, came in my pocket essentially, helped me workshop some things, and also the context that it kept from our previous conversations was extremely helpful. And just I find one of the greatest values of this thing is, of course, there are specific work things that you're just hey, I want to have a difficult conversation with my boss or my report, or how can I be a better manager? But also just I've got a thing to bounce off of somebody. And the value that I see is what I call from rambling to reflection.
Yeah.
As you know, as I'm exhibiting right now, I love to ramble.
You're not rambling. It's very good.
But then having a infinitely patient listener who can then leverage the power of LLMs, but through the filter of understanding of your particular framework of communication and empathy, bring back to me something that's more structured and truly helpful. And so I think that's a rinse and repeat thing that, if there's any magic here, that's the magic for me.
Yeah, I love that. My husband, who also worked at Google for even more years than I did, and I were taking a walk yesterday, and we were talking about the product, and we were also talking about the collaboration with you and your team and how much fun it's been. And he said to me, he said, one of the things that I really miss about working at Google is having this a big number of really supportive, compassionate, kind, but super sort of let's go make shit happen, get shit done kind of colleagues. That combination is exciting and it's fun. And I feel like in building these portraits, you're going to give that experience to everyone in the world. If you can have a group of people, everybody can build their own sort of personal board of directors. Like, who are the people I want to get advice from? Who are the people I want to challenge me, but also in a supportive, kind, exciting way? So I'm really thrilled about what you all are putting out into the world, and super excited to be the first one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a reason I've been at Google all these years. I think I said 500 in the beginning. It's been closer to 19. It's a long time.
It is a long time.
But the lore of Google in the heyday of lava lamps and colorful beanbag chairs and snacks every 100 feet. I mean, some of it's really true, and I feel a great sense of privilege, but also obligation to try to share as much of that, good fortune with others. And so whether it was through like creating educational or fun doodles or trying to make Google Assistant more accessible, I really do think that being able to share the power of technology in a way that is welcoming on a human level, where you don't need to understand even what a prompt is. Like we don't talk about prompts or even like really talk about AI. It's just like, this is an entry point that's meant to reduce all the barriers to the value of the technology. And it's been an awesome partnership because, the secret ingredient, the not secret ingredient, but the thing that really brings it to life is that human interface of like, I can understand where this person's coming from. So that information comes to me from a perspective that is all the more valuable to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think in many ways, part of the reason why I decided to join Google back in 2004, which is around the same time you.
Yeah. I was a couple of years later, but we overlapped for a short while.
But it was one of the, like, if we go in the Wayback Machine, that like the world was different, the internet was different, and most companies were building these sites that kind of felt to me like I was the user, like a fly in a Venus flytrap.
Right.
They were sticky, and then I was going to get eaten up. And Google was doing the opposite. Google was measuring its success by how fast you got off the site, how fast Google was able to help you get where you really wanted to go instead of trapping you in their echo chamber. And I feel like in many ways, what you all are doing with AI is something similar. Like, you're not trying to force everyone to stay in your mathematical average. You're like, okay, we're going to work with creators, and we're gonna allow them to get their use AI to get their content to more.
Yeah, that's a vision for the experiment. Is there's times where that the baseline LLM is exactly what you need. But there are times when there's no right answer, and you want to go to a perspective that you can relate to, that you can understand, or debate with, or disagree with. That's part of the beauty of being human. And if we can bring some of that into the technology, I think that's a net positive. And I agree. Like, as I talk about all the time, I think there's an opportunity to consider what I maybe call characters, or some people might call them agents, but this idea of like a human-like representation of information and perspective that can be applied all over the place. It reminds me of the new website or the new app. This idea that containing in an interface information, a brand, a point of view, services that can be understood by other people as a person-like entity, and that's sort of been an area of exploration for some time for me and many people on the team, and it's exciting to see it come to life.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing that was very different about working with you all than all the other people out there who are trying to do. I mean, there's a lot of people who are trying to create AI versions of personalities, right? And one of the things that you all offered that I think at least, I mean, I'm sure someone else out there is, but nobody else I talk to anyway is offering, is that we can put the portrait on our website. Like, you're not trying to own the user. You're allowing Radical Candor the opportunity to use this on their site and build their own relationship with our own users.
Yeah, I mean, it's early days, but we look at platforms like YouTube as a model of, like, we provide the infrastructure and technology for you to package and distribute your goods and services however you see fit. You could maybe discover them on the youtube.com or in the app, but also embed them on your site. And like, we want this to be extremely creator friendly. We want this to help your audience get more of the mountains of content that you already have. A great place to do that is like right next to where the content already is.
Yeah. So super, super exciting, and empowering for everybody involved. I also think, I mean, and this is my kind of worldview, but I imagine you have a similar one. Like, there are some things where there really are right answers. Sure. Human knowledge is a thing.
Tim Scott wears red orange sweaters. It's not a debate.
Yeah, but that is not truth. That is just an opinion. I feel like human knowledge is a raft on which we're sitting, but human ignorance is much bigger, and is much bigger than our ignorance is way, way, way bigger than our knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think that part of the benefit, like when I sat down to write Radical Candor, a lot of, I'm in Silicon Valley writing this book, and people are like, you got to do research. And I'm like, no, I don't have to do research. Like, in Ambiguities of Experience, James March says there's a few different paths to truth. One is through data and research, but another is through making sense of your own personal experience. And it's, maybe the research follows the insights that come from it. But that's why I think the humanities, and the humanity that you're bringing to this is so important.
Well, I mean, but I might argue also that lived experience is a type of research. You've experienced, data in a way that has informed your hypothesis, has sharpened your hypothesis, and has had confirmations and disproven elements. Maybe it's not the typically packaged numerical, like quantifiable easy, data, but I mean, it's really valuable. I mean, I'm at this like kind of middle point in my career where I was talking to a designer on my team yesterday. If you're out there, Gia, hello. About it still surprises me because I don't think of myself as some seasoned veteran, even though I've been around for a while. Like, I think of myself as still like actively learning and curious and figuring it out. But there are clearly people in their students or early in their career where things that are free to me are valuable to them, and it gives me a lot of gratification that, like, oh no, that's not you. Have you considered that way, or maybe like it's this way? And just even offering a perspective, even if it's not empirically factual correct, just like, in my lived experience, when confronted with a situation like that, here's how I handled it. Something that you might consider, and that's valuable to them. It's great because it's like alchemy. It's like, it's nothing to me, it's gold to them.
Yeah,
and that's it. If you can scale that, it's just like making value where there was nothing before. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And I think I'm so glad you're focused on helping people at work right now too, in addition to in their whole lives. But like, I think that one of the things for me about the first time I became a manager, it's so lonely. It's like an incredibly lonely job. And having a group of people who I could go to and say, I'm experiencing this thing. What should I do? And the best answers I ever got to those questions weren't do this thing, but here's what happened to me when I was in a similar situation. And maybe here's what I did wrong. Don't do that. Or here's what I did right.
Yeah.
Do that. And so I tried to tell a bunch of those stories in Radical Candor in the book. And I hope, like, for me, one of the most meaningful moments of my whole career came when I met someone who had just become a manager, and they said, I was promoted to this job. I got no training on what it was or what it meant. I felt, ignorant and lonely, like that, like, and they said, when I got the book, I felt like I had a friend.
That's amazing.
And I, my eyes filled with tears. Like, it was really incredible. And one of the things that I found is that people maybe read the book and feel they have a friend, and then they're in the moment and they don't remember the page in the book to turn to. And I think that the portraits can really help solve that last mile problem.
And personalized too, like not available, always personalized. So it could be like, well, here's how my situation is different, and having a back and forth about how to like adapt that to your particular situation is really, really valuable. Also, like in our observation of sort of the opportunity space for this, oftentimes people also just need someone to talk to. And having a sounding board, management's a great example, because at work often you're promoted because you were really good at a complicated thing, like you were expert in this numbers for the sales or the design complexity, the design of some big app. But then when you get into management, it's not complicated, it's complex, it's multidimensional, human generosity. There's almost never a right answer, and so having that sounding board to navigate that complexity, personalized to you at that moment, like by all means, everyone should read Radical Candor. Great book. We have my endorsement. You don't need it, but you got it. But in the moment where you're like, okay, 5 minutes, I gotta have this tough.
I can't read a whole book in the
next 5 minutes. Or flip to the page, or Control F on the ebook or whatever. Like, I actually need to like, no, but like my boss like never has time, and like I this is my one shot to make my pitch. Like, what's the most important? And having that right then and there is awesome. And I'm just again grateful for your partnership, because not only is it wonderful for us, but also excited about the people who get to use it.
And the other way that I have found that people are using it is sometimes maybe they're not a manager, but they do have a manager, and it's not always so easy to build a relationship with someone who has there are very few things more damaging to a real human relationship than a power imbalance. And I hope, like, part of what Radical Candor and what the Kim Scott portrait will do is it'll help level the playing field. It'll help folks remember, your boss is a person, your boss is a human being. Because there's a lot of bad bosses out there. We've all had, I'm sure everyone.
At Google, I've never had a bad boss. I'll directly say that. Amazing. Perfect.
Everybody was perfect there. But before you joined Google, you probably had.
Before Google, disaster.
But bad bosses are very rarely bad people. Very rarely bad people. It's just that very few people, when they become a manager, get taught how to do the job. And so I hope that this will help people who are having a boss. I mean, there are truly evil people. I don't want to be too Pollyanna-ish about, but most people are not truly evil. So I hope that this book will help people who are struggling with a bad boss figure out what to do about it. And I hope it will help them feel a sense of agency, but also maybe extend a little bit of grace to that bad boss so that you can work the situation out. And I hope it'll teach people who do become managers how to do the job a little bit better, because bad managers really do create an awful lot of misery in the world.
I want to thank you very specifically, because not my boss, but a very senior stakeholder to me in the project, at one point in a larger team meeting, had talked about how they were going to have a difficult conversation with someone on their team, and they used the Kim Scott portrait to help them. And me and another person, Pavan and Pia, we both worked together on this. Like, shout out to Pavan. We're like, was he talking about one of us? we're like, is he talking? We're like, even in our immediate, circle, we're pretty sure that our all our managers are amazing. But great, 5 on 5. But I think they're using the tool themselves to, better have a sounding board, better to, kind of work through difficult conversations and have that reflection of your expertise to navigate the messiness of human communication.
Yeah, I mean, and frankly, I've used it in the same way too. Like, even though it's my advice, it's hard for me to take. It's easy for me to say, be radically candid. Believe me, every day there's a moment in which I hesitate. am tempted to be ruinously empathetic and say nothing, or I'm mad and so I say something maybe not in the nicest possible way.
Sure.
And sometimes I turn to my own portrait to give me advice for situations, to remind me to take, because this is hard. I mean, this stuff, we are really trained since we're learned to speak, not to say what we really think, because we might say it in a bad way, and then we go from bad to worse. I think that's like,
Yeah.
My sort of my overall hope for the portrait is that it will. I think the vast majority of people tend towards what I call ruinous empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're not saying the thing because you don't want to hurt the person's feelings, or you don't want to offend them, even though it would be better off for them in the long run if you said the thing. And I think if we can move the majority of people towards radical candor, to say the thing and to try to, they do care, so they're probably going to say it in a kind way.
Yeah.
Then we undo the advantages that people who tend to be obnoxiously aggressive, that obnoxious aggression.
Like the self-promoter, scary people can get ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if the majority of people are being ruinously empathetic, that leaves room for obnoxious aggression. It makes it easier to get away with obnoxious aggression.
Right.
And I think maybe on certain social media platforms, we're seeing some of that. and I hope we can teach people how to engage with each other in a way that is more productive, but also kinder.
So in your novel in 2050, like, where's portraits? What product placement can we get, in this, future 25 years from now?
I hope that people can use portraits to maybe pause. Some of the best career advice I ever got, by the way, was if it feels too good to hit send on that email, don't hit send.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that if people can learn that is like, before you retweet that, or whatever,
reacts.
Yeah, reacts. I don't know what to say. Hopefully in 2050, X will be gone, and it will be replaced with a better social media platform. But before you amplify something, or before you respond to something, if your answer feels too good, that probably means it's too mean.
Yeah.
And so pause and think about a different way to say it, a different way to engage with people.
So not humanoid robots. I was trying to lead you into humanoid robots, but
No. I think that well, some of the feedback I got about the portrait, because the subtitle of Radical Candor is "Be a kick-ass boss without losing your humanity," and somebody said, "I have to ask, have you lost your humanity?"
We did ask that you omit that part of your book moving forward as part of
the humanity part.
Right, yeah,
I think like, render unto technology the things that scale, so that I, as a human being, can do the things that don't scale. Like, and in many ways, this portrait allows me to focus on the next book, because it's answering questions that I've already answered in the previous book.
Yeah, I mean, colloquially, we talk about, like, there's no replacing Kim, but this is hopefully the aspiration is to be the next best thing.
So in my novel, what the product that they build is called are personality extenders.
Yeah, there you go.
And so I view this as my hair can be even longer. It's a personality extender. I still have my real hair, but it's a personality extender. So I think we're almost at time, but Jen has said that at some point in our career, we do encounter someone difficult to work or communicate with. Yes. I mean, I think that is a universal thing. And one of the struggles of writing the book is that this is an end-to-end problem. Like, someone who may be really easy for me to work with may be really hard for you to work with, and vice versa. And, you and I both think you and I are easy to work with, but other people may find this difficult.
Yeah.
And so one of the benefits of the portrait is that it will both pay attention to whoever's asking it questions. It'll pay attention to that end, and then it can also imagine the other end, and that I think is really valuable.
Well, speaking of really valuable, thank you again for your collaboration and taking a chance on this. And we think it's the start of something that could be uniquely helpful for people leveraging this technology in a way where end users, creators, and Google all come out ahead. And so thanks for helping us be more than the sum of our parts and being such a great partner.
Huge thanks to you and to your team, and also to the Radical Candor team, to Jason, who is the technical genius on
Jason's AI note taker and whatever gibberish they had to sum up after our calls.
And to Brandy and Leslie and just the whole team for making this a success. To Pavan for responding to my random LinkedIn inquiry. I did a little LinkedIn stalking to get involved. By the way, for other people who want to build a portrait of them, how should they reach out to you?
So on the actual site on portraits or Google labs.google.com/portraits, there is a link and a form where you can fill out your interest. As I mentioned, starting humbly but thinking big, we'd love to scale this out. And so if you've got, there you go. If you go to the site, you'll be able to find a way. You'll find the form on the homepage to submit your information.
Amazing. And then I will not be in solitary splendor anymore. I want company. My portrait wants company. So excited to see the folks who come next.
There's more to come soon, so stay tuned.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ryan. Really enjoyed the conversation and love working with you and the team.
Likewise. Bye-bye.
Take care.